it do, what it do, what it do. 4 o'clock, Monday afternoon. You know what goes down. It's your boy, SportsRap CEO, in the building. And you know where I am, at SportsRap CEO on Instagram Live. So make sure you check in, make sure you lock in. All right, get with me and tune in. Check in with me. All right, if you're on your way home, make sure you get home safe and check in when you get home. All right, if you're already there or if you're still at work, make sure you throw your AirPods in, whatever, and tune in. Check in. All right, lock in. We got some things to talk about today. We'll talk about that Eagles loss yesterday. We're going to recap week 5, I'm sorry, in the NFL. Give you some scores as I always do. I'm going to touch on the Napheesa Collier comments and her statements in regards to the leadership qualities and that lack thereof of the leadership with the WNBA and whatever else we find. Talk about, we gonna fill it in, sprinkle it in there. Also, stay tuned, be on the lookout, and you will get the alerts if you're following, if you subscribe to the channel already, which I know you already have. SportsRap TV on YouTube. New video will be coming outside of this show. Of course, this will go up. There's another video. I did another interview earlier today. Art History, so shout outs to them. Art History 101 for allowing me to use and borrow some of their time today to do a very interesting, very fun interview today. But you know, you'll see it and you'll like it, so be on the lookout for that. And just make sure when you know it, make sure you hit the thumbs up on that video because it's a really good interview, right? It's a really good interview. So again, when you hit that thumbs up on that video, make sure you share it. Make sure you tell a friend to check it out as well. So, give you some scores. NCAA football top 25. Friday, West Virginia at number 23, BYU. BYU holds on 38-24. Starting Saturday, number 22, Illinois at Purdue. Illinois holds on 43-27. Number 14, Iowa State at Cincy. Cincy in the upset, 38-30. Kentucky at number 12, Georgia. Georgia holds on 35-14. Wisconsin at number 20, Michigan. Michigan holds on 20-10. Boise State at number 21, Notre Dame. Notre Dame holds on 28-7. Number 7, Penn State at UCLA. Big upset. Bigger than the score will reveal. UCLA takes that in the upset, 42-37. Number 9, Texas at Florida. They fall. Florida holds on 29-21. Number 24, Virginia at Louisville. Virginia holds on 30-27. Number 16, Vanderbilt at number 10, Bama. Bama holds on 30-10. Kent State gets blanked by number 5, Oklahoma, 44-0. Number 11, Texas Tech at Houston. Texas Tech, 35, Houston 11. Number 3, Miami at number 18, number 18, Florida State. Miami, 38, Florida State 22. Minnesota at number 1, Ohio State. Ohio State holds 42-3. And Mississippi State at number 6, Texas A&M. A&M holds on 31-9. NBA preseason basketball yesterday. The Thunder get by the Hornets 135-114. And the Lakers fall to the Warriors 111-103. In the WNBA Finals, the Mercury fall again to the Aces 91-78. The Aces are now up 2-0 in that series. And Major League Baseball playoffs yesterday. Yankees go down 2-0 to the Blue Jays. They fall 13-7. And the Tigers and the Mariners take that 3-2. That series is tied. I will give you games tonight before I close out at the end of this show. So, that being said, I'm going to get into these football scores. All right, week 5. And again, like I said, it's not a victory Monday this Monday, but things happen, right? We all know that. Things happen, and all the time, you can't be, sorry about that, guys, you can't be privy to wins all the time. You're not going to win them all right? There are going to be some losses along the way, but I'm sure once I get to it, there are some things that once my people join in, they'll be all, I'm sure, agreeing with or adding some things in as we move along, right? So Here we go. Excuse my yawning, people. I'm sorry for that. I apologize for that. Going back to Thursday, kicking off week 5. San Francisco at the LA Rams. LA Rams fall 26-23. Well, I wonder what Drew Brees has to say about now. I wonder what Drew Brees has to say now. He talked all of that, whatever, about the Rams should have beat the Eagles when they didn't. Okay? Coulda, shoulda, woulda. Like we said, if they did, they did. If they didn't, they didn't. So Rams are, I think, 3-2 now. So what is he saying now about the Rams? I would definitely love to hear what he has to say now. Moving into yesterday, Minnesota at Cleveland. I think this was an overseas game as well. Minnesota holds on 21-17. Houston at Baltimore. Houston 44, Baltimore 10. Yes, Baltimore was without Lamar Jackson. Yes, Baltimore was considered to be one of the teams as a contender for the Super Bowl. Things just aren't going their way right now. So, I mean, we will definitely keep watch on that. See how things play out with them. And I'm going to talk a little bit about some other teams as well. But, this was one of the teams that a lot of people predicted from the beginning before the season actually started to be right there in the thick of things, right at the top of the league, and things just aren't falling out that way. All right. Miami at Carolina. Miami falls 27-24. The Raiders at the Colts. The Colts beat up on the Raiders 40-6. The Giants fall to the New Orleans Saints 26-14. The Cowboys keep the Jets winless 37-22. Denver Broncos come into the link and they beat the Eagles 21-17. Tennessee just gets by Arizona 22-21. Tampa Bay edges out Seattle 38-35. Detroit gets by Cincy 37-24. And Washington gets by LA, the Chargers, that is 27-10. New England gets by Buffalo 23-20. All right, so with that being said, right, that means, Bolo, my guy, what's going on, good brother? Thanks for tuning in. With that being said, you heard that last score. New England 23, Buffalo 20. Going into the week, the Eagles and the Bills were the only two remaining undefeated teams. So, just to have a little bit of fun here, right, and play around with some things. And we can talk about this, and this is like kind of that conspiracy theorist thing, right? Like I said, going into the week, Buffalo Bills, Philadelphia Eagles, both undefeated. In early training camp, well, going into training camp, going into the season, late training camp rather, going into the season, some possible matchups from a lot of people had Buffalo Bills versus the Eagles in the Super Bowl. Just pay attention to where I'm going. Like I said, I'm not saying this is what it is, but I'm just having some fun with it, all right, for y'all. Just having some fun. Again, Buffalo Bills, Eagles were picked by a lot of people, allegedly, to be opponents in the Super Bowl. Going into week 5, Eagles, Buffalo Bills, the only two undefeated teams. One AFC, one NFC. Of course, the Super Bowl is one AFC, one NFC team. Here we go. The two teams that a lot of people picked to be in the Super Bowl both lose yesterday. Now, mind you, some of the other teams in the mix in between there that were talked about or had references made about them as being in the mix. Green Bay Packers started out pretty strong. At one point, after week 2, I believe it was, going back, they were allegedly becoming the biggest threat to the Philadelphia Eagles. Things turned a little bit for them. In the AFC, see how things have turned out for Baltimore. Cincy. Now getting back to it. Again, Bills, Eagles, only two teams undefeated going into week 5. One AFC, one NFC. Super Bowl is played. One AFC, one NFC team. Both teams lose. I don't know. Well, I do know who the Bills have next week. Eagles are in Jersey to play the Giants on Thursday on the short week. Bills are Monday night in Atlanta. Bills are next Monday night in Atlanta. The Eagles are this coming Thursday to kick off week 6. Games that both teams should win when you look at it, should win. I definitely look for both of these teams to have a bounce back game. I definitely see the Eagles bouncing back because of just who that team is and how they've been handling things as I've been listening to them in post-game interviews and press conferences and things of that nature. The other thing I want to put in, and I'm always going to do this when there's a coincidence, when there's something that the Philadelphia team and the Eagles or somebody that can be related to or used as an example. I'm always going to bring it in. So we hear everything around the Eagles over the last several weeks. The A.J. Brown, yada, yada, yada. You see both my shoulder, blah, 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 right? The Eagles put out no way they're going to trade. Nothing for that rumor. It's not coming from them. Not trading A.J. Brown. All right, Eagles had another, if you will, lackluster game against the Denver Broncos, a team that everybody felt like they should have beaten. Nobody says it's going to be easy, and it's never going to be easy in the NFL. Games are hard to win in the NFL. But all in all, a game that everybody felt like the Eagles should have won, right? But they didn't. And now there's more talk around the Eagles and what's going on and what's with the offense and yada, yada, yada. Still 4-1. And this is the part that typically bothers me. When they're still at the top of the division, still high in the ranks in the NFL, still 4-1. People are making it a bigger issue. They always saying making a mountain out of mountain out of an anthill. Right? On the other side, you look at Buffalo. There's not that much talk now about Buffalo now being 4-1 and losing to New England at home, just like the Eagles lost to the Broncos at home. I didn't even catch that till just now. So there's another thing to throw into that conspiracy theory thing. Both teams were at home, right? And then now both teams go on the road. Just the Eagles just have a short week. And again, like we said, we talked about this schedule, man. The Eagles have like the most, I don't know who put this schedule together, but there's some hate for the Eagles because this is like the first time in history that defending champion doesn't have any back-to-back home games at all this season, which is crazy, I think. They've got back-to-back, road games, but they don't have back-to-back home games, which is crazy for the defending champs. But anyway, like I said, there's not a lot of talk about Buffalo, and I don't even mean with the A.J. Brown stuff that we had with the Eagles and all the other things like that. I'm not even talking about that. That's our stuff. We're going to keep that here. But I just mean in general. Like, there's not a big hoopla. It's like, it kind of makes you feel like, just so ho-hum. They lost, okay. They're the Buffalo Bills, But when it's the Eagles, it's getting dissected and broken down in so many different ways. And if you give me 10 scenarios of breaking it down, 8 of those 10 are likely mainstream media bullcrap. That's the best way I could put it. I talked a little bit about the Rams and how they lost. I think the Rams, like I said, are 3-2 now. San Francisco, shaky. And immediately with some of these teams, the San Francisco, the Baltimores, the Cincy's, immediately some of their fans are going to immediately say to me, oh, they don't have a quarterback. They have injuries. The Eagles have injuries. They were still in that game. They had a chance to win it at the end. Just didn't happen. So for that, before I get into the stats from the Eagles game, like I always do, I just want to say for a lot of the Eagles fans that are now, I guess, in a way, I'm going to revert back to some things I said last week, where I stated that I still feel this way now after watching the game yesterday. I feel even more so. The offense needs to be more creative in all facets of the offense. We saw it in the game. Who did they play the week before? Against the whoever it was. I forget who it was. Well, we saw it with the tush push. The variations where they went off the tush push, right? We saw those. So we know the possibilities and the potential is there. We definitely know how the skill set is there. Without a doubt, we know the skills is there. The talent is there. It just has to be put in play. You're 5 games in now, and you kind of can see how teams are going to be playing because of your offense had the potential to be so explosive and was so explosive. People are changing up the way they cover you. So you see now how people are going to put a safety over the top of A.J. Brown. They might even sometimes double Smitty. You know, they're going to try and take as much as possibly as they can. They're going to try and take Saquon out of the game. Again, I'm not saying you got to add in more quarterback design runs. You can, yes, sprinkle some of them in, yes. But you have to also, one, I feel like, as just my thoughts, give him a lot more freedom in deciding and changing plays, not just audibles, changing plays. And again, getting creative. And you have to start incorporating some other players in a little bit more. You're going to have to possibly start throwing Dotson into the offense a little bit more than what you have, right? You have to sometimes rotate. You might have to start rotating a little bit with Saquon and A.J. Dillon just to try and throw some defenses off a little bit, right? You have to change some routes for A.J. Give A.J. some double moves in there, right? Put him in motion a little bit more so you can see if that safety moves or if they make a signal to see the other side, right? You got to get creative in the offense. And like I said, we saw with the tush push the other week, it's there. The potential is there. It just has to be filtered through the rest of the offense. The defense, I'm still okay with the defense. That late penalty on Zach Bond, I understand it. But again, like I said, you kind of have to let these guys play football sometimes. So that penalty, like I said, I understand it. And by the rules of the NFL right now, it was a penalty. But again, you have a player that was on the team that was losing, trying to make a play. Maybe a little bit of frustration still is in there, and the emotion. You know, trying to definitely make a stop, trying to help do whatever he felt like he was doing, whatever he could do to help his team or give his team another opportunity for the chance to win. So again, like I said, I'm not mad at that penalty, but I understand it, how it was called, and I understand because of the rules. That's what they are, and I understand that. The New Orleans Saints beat the Giants. I think that was the first win for the Saints this year. The Eagles got the Giants coming up on a short week. The slight emergence of Jackson Dart. Again, we always have these hype games. So last week's game was a hype game, I believe, for him, and the Giants got the win. So I think that was a hype game for them. I think they kind of settled in now. I still am not impressed by their defense. And then again, I'm still wondering about their offense without Malik Neighbors, which will probably be without him for the rest of the season. So we'll see. The Eagles, most of the time, well, not most of the time, but yeah, the last recent years, even when the Giants were really bad, always played the Eagles tough. Division game, so it's going to be a tough game to play. But again, like I said, I think the Eagles, the way that they feel about yesterday's game, I think they're going to bounce back and get a win. And then I think they have Minnesota after that at home, and then back in a bye week. I'm not sure how it goes, but they're in the Giants. Then they got Minnesota. Then they got the Giants again. So I think this is the week with the two road games. I think they're home. I think they're at the Giants. The next week they're at Minnesota, I believe. Yeah, and then after that they're at Minnesota. Then they come back home. And then they have a bye week. So again, like I said, crazy tough schedule for the Eagles, which I think really sucks that they don't have any back-to-back home games. So it is what it is, though. Got to play the schedule. Got to play the hand that's held. Got to play the hand that you're dealt, right? Cowboys got a win yesterday. I'm sure some Cowboys fans are happy about that. But again, still, Cowboys are not the team that most of their fans always think they are. They always have moments like this when they start off showing us who they are. Then they have a game or two where they look like they could possibly be putting some things together. And then they're back to what we know as the Cowboys. Their opponent for next week, they're at Carolina. So people like to call those games, like we said, the trap game, and a lot of people were saying that the game yesterday for the Eagles was that trap game. I don't like calling games trap games because I don't feel like they're trap games. Like I said, I feel like it's hard to win in the NFL. And I could sit here and argue some calls, some penalties, because we've been talking about the officiating for the past couple of years. But all that really doesn't matter. The games still have to be played, and ultimately, for the most part, the players still decide the outcome of the game. The winless Jets, though, that the Cowboys faced, and they still gave up 22 points to the Jets, who haven't won a game. Jets haven't forced any turnovers. I feel bad for Aaron Glenn because, like I said, we're in the week 5. The Jets, who do they have next week? The Jets are at home against the Broncos, coming off a good win. Jets could fall to 0-6. And 0-6, then that seat starts to warm up. That coaching hot seat starts to warm up. For me, there is a fear and a concern that Aaron Glenn might not make it throughout the entire season. Just my thoughts, how I feel about it. So that's that. Just give you some stats from yesterday's Eagles Broncos game. Right? Jalen Hurts, QB1, 23 of 38 for 280 yards, 7.4 yard average. Threw for 2 TDs, no interceptions. He was sacked 6 times for 23 yards. Rushing attempts, Saquon, 6 for 30, 5 yards, no touchdowns. A.J. Dillon, 2 for 12. Jalen Hurts, 2 for 3. Will Shipley, 1 for no yards. So I'm going to stop there for 1 second. And like I said, how I felt like teams, the offense needs to be a little more creative. So with me seeing the 6 attempts for Saquon, that means they went away from him in the second half. Only 6 attempts. It's not good. I understand you have moments where you have to change some things up. But when you have a running back as dynamic as Saquon Barkley, you can't just totally scrap your running game plan. You definitely, in some moments, may have to switch it up or change it up a little bit. But you definitely can't, pretty much scrap it. Like I said, with a running back as talented and an explosive as Saquon Barkley is. And then, like I said earlier, then with A.J. Dillon, and we saw what we can get out of Will Shipley. Will Shipley looks like a promising young back. You kind of have to now throw A.J. Dillon in there a little bit too. And again, for me, in my opinion, this is how you change that front 8. Like teams are kind of loading, but not so much loading all the time the box to combat Saquon Barkley. So now you have a different style running back where you can throw A.J. Dillon out there for a series or 2. and loosen up that defense. Get them thinking a little bit more than what they are thinking. Right? Then you can throw Saquon back in there. And then you mix them up on a drive, right? And a couple series on the drive. You mix them in. Here, a couple plays here, a couple plays there. You gotta start getting these defenses off balance. You have to start getting these defenses to think more. These defenses are starting to settle in and knowing, all right, they're gonna run Saquon. They're gonna run Saquon. They're gonna run Saquon. Worst gets to worst, they're gonna force the ball to AJ. Try to take one over the top first play of the game. Surprise teams. Be more aggressive. Be more creative. Receiving. All right. AJ. Smitty targeted 10 times for 8 receptions, 414 yards. Again, like I said, not bad. So we know it's there. Saquon, 3 targets, 3 receptions. He got the one receiving touchdown. A.J. Brown was targeted 8 times for 5 receptions, 43 yards. Jahan Dotson, 3 targets, 1 reception, 24 yards. Dallas Goedert, 9 targets, 3 receptions, 19 yards, and 1 touchdown. All right. Another thing that I noted that I feel the Eagles need to desperately clean up in a hurry are the penalties. Although they didn't do as bad as penalties as they had been doing. They had 9 penalties for 55 yards. And the Broncos, unbelievably, in a win, had 12 penalties for 121 yards. Eagles were 1 and 2 in the red zone. Broncos were 2 and 3 in the red zone. Yeah. Third down differential. Broncos 5 of 16. Eagles 2 of 11. No attempts from either team on fourth down. Total yards for each team. Broncos 358. Eagles 302. So we see that there's some offense there. It may not look pretty, and right now it's not getting the job done. Because like I said, defenses are not being forced to think about the changes or the quick changes in an offensive scheme. When you have the talent on this roster to do it, from the quarterback to your first backup running back, right? You have the talent, even your backup tight end, right? Now, I know we got some banged up offensive linemen, yes, and we're going into our short week, yes. But like I always say, you'd rather have these guys a little banged up now, and then we know we know the makeup of our offensive linemen, we know the makeup of our players. They're hurt now, and when they come back, they're going to come back with an even mean streak, thinking they have to make up time from what they lost if they had to miss games, right? So this is what I like about the Eagles and this team and the makeup of this team. Like I said, it's resilient. They understand, and they're not giving excuses. Like they're saying it. They say we got to get better. You know, things that we did in previous games to win, we didn't do those this week. We got to get better and get back to that, and not put ourselves in that position where we have to do that. Right. So that's what I admire about the team, that they are doing that. It's a great thing, and I love that they are doing that. One last thing I want to talk about, and before I get to that, I do want to give condolences and a shout out to Lawrence Moulton. Yeah, like I said that they need to figure out the run game. Like I said, they need to switch it up a little bit, I think, and just get teams thinking, throw them off, pull some people out of that box. You know, like I said, they're not really stacking the box every time, but they're crowding it a little bit, and they're just counting on us, like they zoning in on stopping Saquon. But you have a back like A.J. Dillon, a veteran who can do some things in this league or has done some things in this league. Got to use it, right? The Eagles are at the point now. We're in week 5. We talking about wanting to repeat as Super Bowl champions, right? You 4-1. Detroit's 4-1. In the NFC, who else? The Lions. I said the Lions are forming. The Lions are playing well, right? There are some teams that are playing well. The Buccaneers, we beat them once, but they're playing well. So, in order to keep up, you know, you got to get creative a little bit. You got to step into the new era, get in with the times, all right, and fit there. So, I was going to say, I forgot to mention to you all the post that I did posted up when it happened a few days ago. Condolences and in remembrance of Lawrence Moten of Syracuse and former NBA player. He passed away a few days ago, but I just liked him as a player, and I just wanted to show my respects in that. Yeah, like I said, I felt like in the Rams game when they had Jalen Carter, and I mentioned that a little earlier too on Beast from the Now, that you have to. You're at the point now where you kind of have to give Jalen that freedom, kind of like that Tom Brady, Peyton Manning freedom. Right? Call the plays, but let him decide what to check out to, or if he needs to check out. Like, don't just stay standard with your audibles off of plays. Let him decide. Let him be able to read, because when he does that, things happen better. We've seen how they came back against the Rams, and you saw that touchdown to Saquon. Saquon even admitted that Jalen drew that up. So you got to give him a little bit more in there, all right? So, and speaking of Jalen, right, we all know like the NFL has all of these different things that they do. Some are good, some are a little questionable, some are have you scratching your head, like I said, questionable. Some are a little out of the ordinary. So all October, is Breast Cancer Month, so you're going to see players and representation with pink in and around the league for the month of October. So there's also a thing that they do, and it's called Inclusion Week, and they include the LGBT, and I'm going to say the full thing, LGBTQ community. And they wanted players, or were attempting to force players to wear pride armbands during that time, that Inclusion Week. So Jalen Hurts did not. He declined to wear. He would not refuse him. He said he blasted the NFL. He called the league. He blasted it, but by what he called the league's political show. He said, and I quote, "In reality, real unity doesn't need a rainbow to prove it." End quote. And that has sparked some debate. So also, his full quote is what he said, not any quote, not quote. "I respect everyone's right to live how they choose. But don't force me to wear a symbol that I don't believe in. Respect isn't forced through slogans. It is earned through how we treat each other." End quote. For me, I don't have any issue with that because he said it's everyone's right. He respects it, that everyone's right to live how they choose. He says, but don't force me to do something that I don't believe in. I don't believe that I have to wear a symbol in support, or wear this in support of this. Jay said respect isn't forced through slogans. He said respect is earned how you treat people. And I feel like he's on to something, because I kind of feel like in that community, they feel, or the LGBTQ community feels a lot better when they are respected. Because so many times they are not respected, or they're disrespected, just to be blunt, that when they are respected, it's very appreciative. They're very appreciative of it. So I have no issues with that there, what Jalen said there and that. And moving on to that, and moving on from that, rather, we all know where I'm going next. We all know the situation. The end of season statement comments by one Napheesa Collier, who, by the way, is the vice president of the Players Association of the WNBA. Her gripe, her beef is with the poor leadership, in their opinion, or the alleged poor leadership of the WNBA and their president. She, and I'm speaking of Napheesa Collier now, has a ton of support in and around the league in her stance. So when I close out today, when I post the video up, I'm gonna ask this question in the comments. And if anybody's tuned in now, you can ask, think about it if you want. You can answer when you're ready. When I talked about it to people, I mentioned to people that very initially from the gate, I had no issues with what she said. I felt like she had to get it off her chest. And me, it was just, again, me jumping in on the emotions as well. After talking about it more, I realized that, yeah, I agree with it, but talking to some people and they brought up good points that maybe she could have did it a different way. And then even more so, I had people tell me that she was wrong because you don't bite the hand that feeds you. And everything that I just said to you is relative. So, and then when I said that, I said there's no right or wrong way, or none of those are a right or a wrong answer for it. So I had to backtrack a little bit and admit that, again, I have no issue with what she said. Again, I do stand on saying she could have been a little different in her delivery. And I also understand the point of her doing that and kind of defacing and embarrassing her employer, who she will continue to work for. Because they said it's not like she's leaving. She's going to continue to work and play in the WNBA. So everything that I got there, I got. But there are two sides to the story. Actually, three sides. One side, the other side, and the truth. All right, so I broke some stuff down. And some of the things that Napheesa said, let me get to it. All right, she said some of the things she said, and take me. These are quotes. So I'm not gonna keep saying quote unquote, and I quote every time I inquiry, but a lot of these are quote, and I'm gonna say this is what Napheesa said. All right, she said that, and when I say we, I'm gonna be remember when I might say they, so I'm gonna be speaking of the WNBA and how she referred to them. She said we have the best players in the world, the best fans, but right now they have the worst leadership. She said the real threat to their league isn't money. It isn't ratings or even missed calls or even physical play. It's the lack of accountability from the league office. Okay. Like I mentioned real briefly, Collier, she is the current vice president of the Women's WNBA Players Association. Right? And she decided to air her grievances publicly. Okay, and she said, "I've finally grown tired. For far too long, I've tried to have these conversations in private. All right, but it's clear there was no intention of accepting there's a problem. The league has made it clear it isn't about innovation. It isn't about collaboration. It's about control and power." All right. She goes on and she talks about how she sat with Kathy Engelbert. She said, I sat across from Kathy and I asked how she planned to address the officiating in our league. And these were her alleged response per Napheesa. From Kathy, we go to battle every day to protect the shield that doesn't value us. She said nothing. I'm sorry, that was the wrong one. Said her response was, well, only the losers complain about the refs. She goes on to say that Engelbert has a very cavalier attitude towards their ongoing CBA negotiations. All right, and player salary. Noting says, we go to battle every day to protect the shield that doesn't value us. Speaking of Napheesa and her co-players. All right. She also says she asked how she planned to fix the fact that players like Caitlin Clark and Angel Reese and Paige Buckers, who are clearly driving massive revenue for the league, are making so little for their first 4 years. And I've talked about this several times, about their salaries and things of that nature. She says Kathy's response was, Caitlin should be grateful to make $16 million off the court, because without the platform that the WNBA gives her, she wouldn't make anything. So, I gave you a little bit so far. Wasn't there for these meetings. I'm giving you what was reported, what was allegedly stated by Napheesa Collier. And if these allegations are fact, I'll still stand and say that she has a legit point. I really think she has a major gripe if this is what is going on. So I'm going to focus on the issue, the bigger issue at hand for me, as far as the conditions and the leadership issues, right? Again, like I said, I have an understanding. We have an understanding. I felt like initially it was okay. She just could have did it a little better, yada, yada, yada. Other people informed me and enlightened me to different ways of looking at it. And I changed and I gave you that. All right. Like I'm saying, when I'm done the video, you can go back, and when you hear this part, you can go back and rewind if you want and hear what I said. But anyway, I'm going to focus on the task at hand and these alleged conditions and issues that are going on for these women, because I am somewhat a fan of the WNBA. I have some favorite players and I just like, women's basketball. It's gotten a lot better. Collier goes on and says, in that same conversation about Caitlin Clark and the money that she makes, in that same conversation, she says Kathy Edelbert told her players should be on their knees thanking their lucky stars for the media rights deal that she got them. She also mentioned some little things. And we know in life, in general, sometimes little things mean a lot. Sometimes they mean a ton. Napheesa mentioned that Kathy has not reached out to her following injuries or anything. And in comparison, she brought up the unrivaled league that has just been started outside of the WNBA, in which Napheesa Collier's husband is the president, director of that league. She also said, I understand the job. I'm not saying the job is not difficult. I understand somewhat what it entails. But he said, this gentleman takes the time out to be a leader. Show that you care and are in tune with your players. He calls players after injuries, calls to check in with them, see how they're doing when they're back in the WNBA and when they're playing in the unrivaled league. Napheesa feels like this is what leadership should be. I tend to agree with that. I kind of agree with that. Like, if you're going to be the president of a league, you should be able and be willing to associate to an extent and talk to your product, your players. You have to have communication there. Like you said, the players get hurt, check on them. You're not trying to call them and get all in their business and everything like that. You just, hey, listen, understand the injury, hope everything's working out for you. If you need anything, league is here for you. I'm here for you. Give me a call or have your people call. We can talk and we can work something out. All right. That's what leadership does. Right. Lisa says she hasn't heard from her. Not one call, not anything. All right. I got more. Got a little bit more. Got a little bit more. All right. A little bit more. Yeah, she said that, it's almost, Kathy comes back at one point and says she has the utmost respect for Napheesa and for our players in the WNBA. Together, we have all worked tirelessly to transform this league. My focus remains on ensuring a bright future for the players in the WNBA, including collaborating on how we continue to elevate the game. I am disheartened by how Napheesa characterized our conversations and leadership, but even when our perspectives differ, my commitment to the players and to this work will not waver. So, just breaking that down on the surface, you could easily have debatable points where you can say that Kathy is kind of shunning away from the points, where she says, let's see, she's disheartened by the conversation, characterized conversations. She says that her focus is ensuring a bright future. It gets to be like she's alluding the fact that, or she's feeling some kind of way where some things got out that she probably didn't want to get out, and now they out, and she kind of don't know how to react to them. So she just gonna be politically or attempt to be politically correct and say, oh yeah, the care is there, it's there, the support is there, when it's been leaked out that it may or may not be the case all that well, right? Okay, it says, year after year, the only thing that remains consistent is the lack of accountability from our leaders, is what Napheesa says. She also goes on to say, what's truly unsustainable is keeping a good product on the floor while allowing officials to lose control of the games. She said fans see it every night. So, that was the officials' day there. So again, she has, again, a ton of support from players and others around the WNBA. I just hope that this does not hinder her career in the WNBA. I hope that this whole entire situation gets played out in the proper way, where, like I mentioned to you, because I was not there and I'm just getting reports, the alleged conversations that I reported to you get handled in a way that they need to be handled and be professional about it and move on. And if it gets to the point where leadership needs to be changed, if those things are proven to be true, then let's expedite that and get some better leadership in this office and progress and continue to grow this league. Because the league is starting to grow, and with the leadership that has been going on, as me and as on following, I kind of, again, like I said, I kind of am taking it with a grain of salt. Like I said, I'm saying alleged because I wasn't necessarily in the room. But the history and other things that I've heard about conditions and other things around the WNBA kind of makes you feel like, could be some truth to this. Some of this could really be true moving in. So, folks, thank you for tuning in. As always, on your Monday, I hope everyone gets home safe if you're on your way home from work. Hope everybody that tuned in enjoyed the show. Thanks to K Sport 11, William Burnett 376, my guy Jay Blake 5, my other guy, and Beast from the Now. Thank you all for tuning in. Thank you for everybody else that's tuned in and everybody that's going to catch this video once it goes up later. Right? You know what it is. It's Monday. I'm going to give you the NFL sheet and my picks for week 6. All right. Tonight, closing out week 5 in the NFL, you got Monday Night Football, Chiefs and Jaguars. You also got some preseason NBA games. You got Bucks at Heat, Hawks and Rockets, Pistons, Grizz, Thunder, Mavs, and Nuggets, Raptors. Major League Baseball, we got playoffs tonight. You got the Dodgers and the Phils. Man, my Phils had support. I'm looking for a bounce back game from the Phils tonight to tie this series up 1-1. And you also got Cubs, Brewers. Brewers are up 1-0 in that series. Moving on to our NFL. Again, short week for the Birds. Thursday kicking off week 6. I like the Birds in a bounce back game there against the Giants. Like I said, Giants will probably play us tough, but I think the Eagles will get focused and practice, have some time, some short time, so it's going to be condensed. So I think they'll be ready. Let's see, Denver at the Jets. The Jets are winless, so I'm going to go with the Broncos there. The Rams at Baltimore. I'm going to go with the Rams. Dallas at Carolina. I'm going to go with the Cowboys there. I hate to do it, but I'm going to go with the Cowboys there. I'm being honest and just being realistic about my picks. Arizona at Indy. I'm going to take Indy at home. Seattle at Jacksonville. I'm going to take Jacksonville in that one there. The Chargers and the Dolphins. I'll take the Chargers on the road. Pittsburgh at home against Cleveland. I'm going to take the Steelers at home. San Fran goes into Tampa. I'm going to take Tampa at home. Tennessee at the Raiders. I'm going to take Tennessee on the road. Cincy at Green Bay. Surprising this, as much as I talked about Green Bay, I am going to take Green Bay at home there. I'm going to take the Patriots in New Orleans over the Saints. I'm going to take Detroit in KC over the Chiefs next week. And next Monday, another doubleheader. You got Buffalo at Atlanta. I'm going to take the Bills there. And I'm going to take the Commanders at home against the Bears. Texans, Vikings have a bye week in week 6 coming up. So, folks, again, like I said, thank you all for tuning in. Thank you definitely for the continued support. and everything as well. All right, you know where to find me: Instagram, TikTok, and Threads. Right, at SportsRap CEO. Make sure you get over to the YouTube channel, SportsRap TV. You know the three things you need to do. You're gonna subscribe to the channel. You're going to hit the thumbs up on the videos that you like. Ton of videos over there. This one will be up soon. Then you're going to hit the bell so you'll be alerted when new content goes up. Also, website, sportsrapradio.com. Look for me out and about in the community, and also be on the lookout for that interview I did this morning. Good interview this morning. Special treat for y'all. Be great on purpose. Talk to y'all all week on social media. Right back in studio on Monday. Peace.